Hey, everybody. Welcome to the MSP Initiative. As you can see, not George Bardisi in the house today. Ken Patterson filling in for George Bardisi. And I think we all can agree that nobody can quite fill George's shoes, but we're going to try to do that today. I'm going to do some quick housekeeping as George would normally do, and then we're going to jump right in with Larry, channel legend, known him for many, many years, and talk a bit about what he's doing now. But let's poke over here and do a little housekeeping, talk about what's going on, and with MSP Initiative, some big things happening. First up, we have the Channel Strong Tour coming up, week 7. And that tour is going to start off in Vegas. It goes from Vegas to Phoenix to San Diego, and then winds up in Irvine on Thursday, October 20th. If you are in any one of these areas or somewhere close by, you definitely should pop out. These are great events, laid back. Don't feel like you're going to be pitched. That's not the idea of these events. These events are about having that casual conversation, not to be pitched, but to actually be able to have a little bit of fun, have some food, have some drink, and just collaborate with the other MSPs and the few vendors that are on board. So I highly recommend them. Also, the last week of the tour, week 8, is going to be in Florida, going to do Fort Lauderdale, Tampa, Orlando, and then we're going to have a travel day up to Atlanta. So a couple of great weeks coming up there on the MSP Initiative. And then also the big one, the big mamma jamma is the party. This party is going to be crazy. You're going to hear some music too, I think, from the All-American Rejects on this page. But the block party, the first night of IT Nation, is going to be huge. It's not just going to be the All-American Rejects, which is the biggest part of the whole party, but there's going to be lots of surprises, lots of cool things. It's on the 9th, November 9th. It's at Icon Park in Florida. You don't have to be at IT Nation to go to this event. So if you're in the area and you're in the neighborhood and you want to stop by the party, make sure you register on here. It'll make it a heck of a lot easier. Go to this page and register. Also for the Channel Strong Tour, you can register on here as well. Got a little All-American Rejects there. I see Larry singing. I can see it.
Well, hey, rumor has it, Ken, that in addition to the All-American Rejects, I hear you may be doing an encore karaoke performance.
I don't have to be asked more than once, although I always, like I say, I may love it, but my audience doesn't. But that's okay. I just get up there and I'll get up there and do it and have no worries about it. When the opportunity arises, I definitely don't shy away from doing stuff like that. Lots of fun. Sade says yes. She did some singing at the last event with us too, and actually, she did some singing. I did some karaokeing, so that's the difference.
There is a big difference.
Yeah, just a bit of a difference. So let's get started here. We have Larry on the show from Datastream Cyber Insurance. And if you don't know Larry, I don't know where you've been for the last, I won't say how many years, Larry, because I don't want to age us, how long we've been on the channel and what we've been doing. But how about you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what you're doing now?
I'd be happy to do that. Yeah, I've been in the channel now far longer than I care to admit. I used to have color in this hair on my face, and I used to have hair where the hat sits right now. That kind of tells you something. Now, I've been in the channel for about 20 years. Most of that time, I think most people got to know me through CNET Content Solutions and our Channel Online platform that we had. CNET got acquired by a private equity firm, all that good stuff. And so there ended a 17-year career with CNET, and I went to Greenlink Networks for a little while. My buddies Myron and Giovanni over there at Greenlink, a VoIP provider. And this opportunity with Datastream came my way. And it was one of those things where, the timing wasn't great for me because I had just gotten over to Greenlink, and we had been trying to put that together for quite a long time. But the opportunity to get into cybersecurity, and then when I talked with Datastream and heard what they were doing, I was like, wow, I really want to be a part of this. I mean, it's like, getting in on the ground floor of a rocket ship, just getting ready to take off. And, It was a hard decision to make, but ultimately, when Datastream kind of offered me a position, yeah, I made the jump to come over to Datastream, and I have been drinking through the fire hose for the past 10, almost 11 months. You know, and I like to make the joke that if you had ever told me at any point in time over the past 20 years that, Larry, you're going to wind up in insurance at some point in time, I would have said, yeah, what have you been drinking? But then if you would have told me I was going to become passionate about it, I would have been like, yeah, no, there's no way in hell that's going to happen. But so here we are. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's not just any insurance though, right? I mean,
correct.
cyber insurance. You want to talk about the timing may have not been not the way you would have wanted it, right? With joining GreenLink and then having this come up. But I would say the timing of where you're at is fantastic, right? It's something that's
Absolutely.
absolutely necessary, and so there's a few things that come to mind when we talk about these things, right? First of all, everybody thinks, oh, I got insurance, I'm covered. Well, that's not the end all be all, right? You have to understand there's a lot of things to understand. So from an MSP perspective, Larry, what are some of the main things that MSP should know about cyber insurance?
Well, you know, cyber insurance is different from just about anything else out there. And I think everybody should, number one, probably recognizes that. And one of the big challenges that we've seen is that you've had the cybersecurity industry over here and you've had the cyber insurance industry over here. They weren't really talking with each other all that much. So we're trying to bridge that gap. But, you know, you just brought up a great point. You know, some people are like, oh, yeah, I've got a $5 million cyber insurance policy. I'm covered. I'm all good. Oftentimes we'll do that policy review. We'll take a look at it and say, okay, you may have a nice overall limit, but you didn't pay attention to the sublimits. You've got like $100,000 ransomware sublimit. This is a reimbursement policy, not a pay on behalf of policy. Various things like that. There's so many different things to dig into when you're looking at these policies. And you know, the other scary thing is, and this is what we really see an awful lot of, is people will get a rider on their CGL for cyber and say, okay, I'm covered. Well, sadly, you're not really covered because most riders kind of tap out around the $100,000 mark. And, you know, we kind of say that that's, if you do suffer some type of incident, that'll buy coffee and donuts for the incident response team during the first week. And that's about all it's going to cover. So, you know, cyber is a much different beast than any of the other, you know, than even E&O or tech E&O.
Right.
So that's why we specialize in cyber insurance and mainly to help protect the MSP customers. That's who we're really after. But we can also help MSPs and MSSPs and VARs and anybody in the channel get insurance for themselves. It's a tough vertical. Not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes.
Right.
It is a very tough vertical, but if anybody can help, I think we can.
Yeah, it's you hit a couple nails right on the head as usual. But there's one thing that they all have in common, and that's that insurance typically will find ways to not pay you, right? And so you bring up some good points there in that, well, yeah, you got the insurance, but what does it cover? What doesn't it cover? You know, what are the limitations, right? So are there limitations with cyber insurance even that you have to do other things for, or is it the limitation within the normal insurance and that's where cyber insurance comes in? You know, where are the limitations for that?
Yeah, you know, a lot of what we see happening is people will get some type of policy, whether it's a rider on the CGL, whether it's a standalone policy, which we always recommend, but they don't, you know, like you've already pointed out, they don't pay much attention to what all is in there. And also what's in there is you have to document many of the things that you attest to at the time of application. You know, if you sit there and say you've got MFA on every device and all that good stuff, you better have that documented, because heaven forbids if it comes to a breach and you have not documented it and the digital forensics team comes in there and can prove that you didn't have it on every single device, or, you know, whatever it was that you attested to, that's where you run into problems with insurers not wanting to pay out.
Yeah,
And there were,
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I don't know. I'm sure probably most folks saw, oh gosh, I guess it's been about a month, maybe 6 weeks ago. Travelers,
Yeah.
there was an incident that came out and basically found out that the insured had basically lied on the application about many of the things that
Yeah.
they said that they had. And travelers ended up rescinding the policy. And, stuff like that is literally, yeah, it's career ending for somebody, but it's usually business ending for most people.
True, true, 100%. And as Matt Lee, brings into the picture, it's all about defensibility, right? You want to make
Yep.
sure that you have that defensibility. We're always talking, whenever we're talking about insurance, we're talking about liability, right? And even in the good old days, Larry, where we used to think, oh well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to write an opt out, and I'm going to say, well, if you don't do this, if you don't back up your data, if you don't follow my managed services, if you don't get cybersecurity insurance, you're on the hook, not me. And that doesn't work anymore either, right? If as long as you're the provider of services to them, you're still liable, right? Have you seen many incidents where that's been the case?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and you bring up a very valid point there. I mean, these folks, all the SMBs that the MSPs are, protecting, it's so crucial. And a
Yeah.
lot of people hadn't thought about this, but it's so crucial that those guys have cyber insurance because, to the MSPs and the MSSPs sitting out there, your customers getting insured is protecting you as well. You can have your own techie, you can have your own cyber, but you really need to make sure that those end clients are covered so that they're protecting their business. And the more of them that get covered, like I said, it just benefits you as the MSP.
Yeah, it's funny too. You just made me think of something. Always making me think, Larry. I don't know if I like it or not, but you're always making me think. When I had my MSP here in Massachusetts, we had started to decide, and it was actually, we stumbled on it. So I don't want to pretend that we were smarter than anybody, but we had stumbled on this insurance. I don't know what it was. It was a need to have if you were doing insurance back in the day. And basically, what it meant was there was a clause in the insurance policies in Massachusetts that stated if you don't have basically what was managed services to help do what did they used to call it, best practices for
Mhm.
for stopping the threat from happening, that your insurance was immediately null and void. Now, the funny way that we stumbled on this was it happened to be an actual insurance company that we were doing business with. And I was having the conversation with them about the plans and what they cover and why they should be doing more because they're an insurance company. He went back to the state because he sat on the state board and found out that it was a state requirement. So even as an insurance company, he didn't know this. And then it kind of blew up and blossomed into this thing where, oh, okay, guess what? We need to have something monitoring our networks to do this stuff. And so the next logical progression from that would be cyber insurance tying into all of that, right? Do you know, are there many states that are now requiring these things to be in play?
There's a whole lot of legislation at the state level going on right now.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of sites that we monitor all the time, trying to stay in front of it and trying to keep our partners, advised of it as well. It's one of those things, I don't know if you realize it or not, but do you have any idea how long cyber insurance has been around?
I probably don't. I could take a guess and say I know it's longer than we think, but
It is, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's actually been around since the late 80s, early 90s. But it really got kind of thrust into the forefront basically a little bit before the pandemic, but especially after the pandemic, now that
yeah.
we have these distributed remote workforces and all of that good stuff. So yeah, cyber insurance has been around for a long time. And you said something a few moments ago, you were saying that the agent didn't really know some of these things and he had to go kind of do some research himself. And that's one of the things that we see and that MSPs are gonna hear day in and day out from their customers. And that is, hey, my buddy Ken down the street, he's been selling me my home and auto and my life and my my CGL and my workers' comp insurance for my business, I'm going to go buy cyber from him because he says he's got cyber insurance. And Ken, sorry to take your name in vain here, but good old Ken may know workers' comp and home, auto,
Right.
life, CGL, all that good stuff. And sure, he's got a carrier that has cyber insurance, but Ken may not really know what all is about cyber insurance, so he just sells that policy to him. Yeah, that's the scary part. That's why we really encourage with cyber insurance, work with a specialist who understands that. Work with a specialist who is talking to the experts. The experts are you guys, the MSPs, the MSSPs. I am learning so much from our partners just through everyday conversations because I'm not a cybersecurity expert and you guys are. So that's why we're here really to just be a resource for all of our MSP partners out there, just to help them make sure that their clients are protected.
Yeah, I love that. So speaking of that, do you have some important questions that the MSP should be asking when they're talking to cyber insurance providers? Are there specific questions that they should be asking? Some of the ones we talked about, what is it? What incidents will it cover? What is the cost? I mean, everybody wants to know about cost, but I think the more important thing is, are there other questions that they should be asking so they know they're matching up with the right provider?
Really, what we kind of encourage them to do is there's definitely questions you can be asking, but if you're talking to somebody who's not a specialist in this, they don't necessarily always provide you with the right answers.
Right.
So, and I know this sounds really self-serving, and it's interesting. I always tell everybody, it's weird to be a vendor right now with nothing to sell to MSPs. I got nothing to sell you because in order for you guys to sell insurance, you got to be licensed. That's the law.
Right.
So you have to be a licensed insurance agent to talk in depth about insurance, to talk about anything financially with the insurance policies themselves. So I really got nothing to sell to the MSPs except our partnership and lean on us as that resource. If you've got questions, come to us. We can help you out with that. Doesn't mean you have to use us, but just come to us. We're the experts here. We can help guide you along the way.
Have you ever seen any specific incidents that are excluded by these types of policies?
There's definitely, some incidents that have happened that have definitely been excluded. It's kind of a hard thing to talk about just simply because there's so many factors that come into play.
Right.
It's hard to kind of speak as an expert on those things. But yes, we have definitely seen some of that stuff out there for sure.
And I'm assuming this question gets asked a lot, and I always wonder if it's been reversed or it's not been, it's more based on what they do. But are there any audit or compliance obligations that are specific from the cybersecurity side of the business, or is it more about what they do and who they serve, and then they have to meet, FINRA and those certain requirements?
Yeah, I hate to use a grossly overused analogy, but it is that three-legged stool when it comes to talking about cyber insurance and cyber protection as a whole. One leg of that is basically the MSPs with the tools, the technology, the processes, but then you also have the compliancy leg, then you have the cyber insurance leg. And if you've got all three of those, you're then building a very firm foundation that the customer knows that they're protected. They can focus on their core competencies and all that good stuff.
Yeah, great. Good stuff. From a standpoint of, I don't want to completely feel like I'm putting you on the hot seat. Is there anything that you would like to discuss from a standpoint of, Datastream or cyber insurance or anything that you'd like to bring up since we have this audience and, this will be pushed out all over social after we're done? Is there any message that you would like to deliver from a standpoint of the, cyber insurance or Datastream?
Yeah. No, I'd love to. I mean, we're here, like I said, guys, we're really here to be a resource in an area that you may not know a whole lot about. And again, you got to kind of tread lightly when you're talking insurance. It's not us saying that. That's the law. You got to be a licensed agent, like I said a few moments ago. So at Datastream, we're licensed Whoo, there comes the Texas twang coming out there.
There you go.
We are licensed in all 50, and we're a broker. We have over 30 carriers in our portfolio, and that enables us to kind of go out there. Number one, we've got a universal application for the customer to fill out. I'm sure many of the MSPs here in the audience have probably been helping their clients fill out these ludicrous 20, 30, 40-page insurance applications from the various carriers. So we have a universal application that the customer fills out one time. They send it to us, then we do all the legwork. We go out to all of our carriers and we come back to the customer with comparative quotes. And we don't just send the quote out there. We explain what the differences are between these quotes. You may have heard me mention earlier during this little podcast talking about pay on behalf of versus reimbursement. And that can be very, very important to a small business. You know, if you've got a reimbursement policy, that means that if you have some type of incident, you may have to lay out a pretty good chunk of change to get reimbursed by the insurer, 30, 60 days later. Whereas a pay on behalf of means that the insurer is going to automatically make that payment, whether it's ransomware or something like that. Who knows what it might be, but they'll make the payment for you because you've paid a little bit higher premium to have that type of policy. So our team is going to explain these things to the customer so that they fully understand what is covered, what isn't covered, and what their requirements are to document these things that they have in place and what they need to do as the life of the policy goes on. Like they add more endpoints, let's make sure that those are documented so that you can make sure that your what is covered in the event of some type of incident. If the customer then decides to bind with us, we don't just walk away and just say, okay, good, cool, there's another sale, let's go on to the next one. We will work either in conjunction with the MSP or just with the customer. We'll help them put together an incident response plan. We do monthly tabletop testing so that they can kind of go through a simulated incident so they can test their incident response plan. We'll also help them build a disaster recovery plan. We'll also keep the MSP notified of any changes. And one of the things I failed to mention is even before application, one of the things that we do for the MSPs out there is we have this cyber insurance readiness assessment, which is a report that we run, and it helps you take a look at that customer. And it's the same thing any carrier is going to run as well. And it's not a perfect science. We're only looking up to the firewall. But again, the carrier's already going to do this. So we're trying to help get ahead of the curve here. We're going to run that assessment. And essentially, we kind of score them green, yellow, red. Green means highly insurable, probably going to get the best premiums. It's the yellow and red guys that you kind of want to pay attention to. I mean, green says you've been doing a great job as an MSP. That customer looks really good. The yellow and red guys are the ones that probably need to spend some money to shore things up just a little bit before they go and apply for insurance so that they're making sure they're going to get the best policy and the best premium possible. So we're really seeing that for the foreseeable future, cyber insurance is really going to be the MSP's friend because we're going to kind of drive that technology spend as we continue forward. And many of my partners have already come back to me and said, man, I've been telling my customers for 2 years, you got to have MFA. You got to have offsite backup. And they're like, I'm too small. I'm not important enough. People are going to hit the banks and the financial industry and the retailers. No, they're not, man. They're going to hit these SMBs. And what we have been able to do is, the MSP has been telling these customers, you need MFA. And the customer has been saying, no, I don't need it. Well, we get to kind of come in there and say, Mr. Customer, Mrs. Customer, we advise you listen to your MSP here because they know what they're talking about. Without these technologies, you're virtually uninsurable because these are becoming hard requirements for almost every single carrier out there. So it's really kind of helped the MSP accelerate the sales cycle, as well as kind of reignite maybe a dormant sales cycle that they just have never been able to close the door on. So at least that's what we've been seeing so far this year.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And, leading into COVID, Microsoft had this great study that showed that 98 or 99% of all the hacks up until that point could have been stopped or avoided with MFA, password management, and education. Three simple things that obviously we overlook. And, back in the day when Colin was doing Passportal, he used to say, protect your own house, right? Then we were all talking about, you need to protect your house first. So it's definitely ties all right into all the things. And quite honestly, COVID helped us with a lot of this stuff because it kind of pushed security, cloud, everything. I think it sped everything up by, we don't even know yet how it's 20x, 30x, 40x. I don't think we ever would have gotten as far as we are now without COVID. As bad as it was, I think it was the best thing that could happen to any industry because it forced people into now realizing we need this stuff. We need this and we need it now. And now we got to get the right players, right, to line up and do this stuff. So, I love that this is happening. Bruce is saying that's the truth. I have the exact same thing happen several times to me. Yeah, it's and by the way, if you guys have questions for Larry, throw them into the chat, and we'd love to answer them while we go along here. We're gonna bounce back and forth and talk a little bit about the MSP space and maybe even talk about those Razorbacks that I'm sure Larry's a little frustrated with right now.
I am, but hey, I'm not as frustrated now as I have been for the past 10 or more years. It hadn't been fun to be a Razorback for basically most of this decade. But I think we're moving in the right direction. Hey, we play in a really tough conference, but I'm satisfied with where we're headed. Hopefully we can have a few more wins this season.
Yeah, you had a close one with Texas A&M there.
Yeah, that one I still say we won. We just ended up beating ourselves.
I actually agree with you. I saw your post on social and I had happened to catch the game and I was like, how did they lose this game? It didn't even make any sense.
Dude, yeah. That one hurt. The Bama one, that one hurt too. Yeah. But it's Bama, okay? I mean, come on. It is Bama.
But, they're ranked third. You gotta be able to get some of those matchups when they're recruiting at the level that they're recruiting.
Yeah, and while we're talking here on this subject, sorry guys, we kind of got off on a little bit of a tangent. I'm kind of proud of this back here because I went off on a business trip one day, and my adult children, I wish I didn't have to say they were adults, but they really are. Yeah. They surprised me for my birthday and redid my office for me and kind of did all this hand painted stuff and put it all up there. So yeah, I'm kind of proud of it. But
Larry, we got a quick one here. Mark, a good friend of mine, Mark K. How are you, Mark? Wants to know would love to schedule a call with you and follow up on this. So if you want to put your information and write it here in the Q&A, that would be cool. And if not, we could get it to Mark. But
I am putting it right here in the chat real quick. Mark, I would love to talk with you as well. Like I said, guys, I know a couple of people have just joined in. We're really there just to be a resource for you guys. We're here to help. That is our number one goal, is to help you guys. So I just threw my email and phone number. Did I type it right? Yeah, I sure did. It just kind of broke.
It broke it up a little bit. Yeah. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to, oh, geez, I hate when it does that. Let's see if I can take that and answer his type answer there. And just in case, nope, that did not work.
No, while you're trying to figure that out, we're doing something that's really cool right now. So Datastream is actually backed by Envelop Risk. Envelop Risk is a company out of the UK. They're the world's third largest cyber reinsurer. And just to explain what that is, some of you guys are probably way smarter than me and already know what that is. But before I was in insurance, I was like, I got no idea what a reinsurer is. But we insure other cyber insurance companies. So we help take care of them. We also have visibility into claims data for the past 5, 6, 7 years. So as a result, we got this really huge set of data. And under the hood, ultimately, we're a data science company. We literally have PhDs in data science that are back there analyzing this data using machine logic and AI and all of that good stuff. But we are in the middle of a study. And that study is to prove to SMBs and put the facts and figures out there that show if you're working with an MSP, MSPs as a whole have been proven to reduce cyber risk by X%. So the way we're doing this is I told you about those cyber insurance readiness assessments that we can run on your customer that kind of help get you ahead of the curve to see if that customer looks good for approval on insurance. We can run those reports on your customers and we provide those reports to you, the MSP. We don't provide them to the customer. You're free to share them if you want to. But if you give us all of your customers, whether it's 100, 200, 50, 10, we can then run a portfolio assessment on you, the MSP, that shows how you have reduced risk for your portfolio of clients. And then you have this great little tool to go to prospective clients and say, look, here's the proof from a third-party unbiased resource. I have reduced risk for my clients by X%. So that way it kind of gives you a little tool in your pocket to go out there with those prospects. But then this study, like I said, if you want to participate in this study, you can do it totally anonymously. But we're also going to be publishing that study for everyone to use as well to say, look, using an MSP as a whole is the right way to go because, again, here's a third-party unbiased resource showing you that MSPs are reducing risk as opposed to if you're not using an MSP. So
yeah, I would. If I were in your, all your shoes from an MSP perspective, I would be working to set up seminars and webinars with Larry and his team to be a piece of that. Maybe tie in some, news about like I said, get some of those articles about MFA, password management, and education. Get some phishing tool stuff, whatever. Some things that can be outside that are all educational, not sales driven, where you're bringing prospects and customers into a room and you're just talking about, hey, these are the things that are out there. This is what's affecting you. And by the way, we can help. These are the people that can help if you're not already getting it. Because most people are going to come to those events and go, whoa, I didn't know that. And now you're going to be able to tie that in. So I highly recommend doing something like that with Larry and his team and, pulling in maybe a couple of others with your team and keep it all educational. Don't talk about how great you are. Talk about what's going on in the industry. And the only reason you're even doing this webinar is to make sure that everybody is safe. If they have somebody, great. But are they doing X, Y, and Z? That type of thing.
Absolutely. And we're more than happy to do those webinars. Matter of fact, we do them almost every week. We've got several of them scheduled for October. I've even done some in person. And that brings up, we can help you whether you become a partner with Datastream or not. But if you become a partner with Datastream, which incidentally, you guys have no skin in the game here. It doesn't cost you anything. There's no quotas to hit or anything else. But if you become a partner, we do have a nice little MDF program so that we can help you guys promote your business. We've got a lead generation program that we just launched because we're also marketing to SMBs. But the very first question we ask them, are you working with an IT consultant, an MSP, an MSSP, anything like that? And when they say no, we show them the results of this study as well as other things that we have that says, here's why you should be working with an MSP. Here's 3 in your area. Please contact them. They're going to be able to help you with your insurability. So you become a partner with us, guys, and we can really, really help you. We got lots of co-branded marketing materials that are available in our partner portal. You can refer customers to us through the partner portal and track where they are in the application process, all of that stuff. So, and a lot of really cool things coming in the future as well.
Yeah, this is all really cool stuff. And, I might even say, Larry, that you might have this part of the market cornered because I just don't see a whole lot of companies in our space that does this to the level that you guys do.
Well, certainly appreciate that. I mean, we always know there's, hey, competition, it's a good thing to have, because
Right.
especially in a new sector like this, it ends up validating that this is a very, very real space. And, I am thankful that I got asked to join Datastream. We've got some truly visionary people behind our company. I love what we're doing. Like I told you earlier, if you had ever told me I was going to be in insurance and actually grow to like it, I would have said you're smoking something that's not legal. But here I am, and I'm actually having a lot of fun doing it. And I think the best is yet to come for us.
Well, that's awesome. And yeah, I don't think there's going to be any shortage of work. That's for sure.
Matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to promote just real quick, if I'm allowed to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whoops, if I can type. So if you go out to datastreaminsurance.com, you can apply to be a partner. And it's really not an application. It's just give us a little bit of information. Then my team will reach out to you. We'll get you set up. Matter of fact, let me just put the right link out there.
Make sure you do it. Make sure you do it to everyone. Switch your thing to everyone, because last time you did it just to the hosts and panelists, but I saved it and put it to the.
I'm glad, because it won't. For some reason, it won't let me do it to everyone. I can do hosts and panelists, Sade or Ken.
All right, just put it on. I'll change it. That's all.
Okay, there you go.
I'll get it out of there.
Take a look at that one, and that takes you right over to our partner application. And like I said, guys, fill that out. It's not an application. It's just, we got to get information on your company so that we can put you into our Salesforce instance, and then my team can reach out to you, get you set up in our portal, and then we can just keep going from there.
Yeah,
we try to make it easy.
It is a little weird. It doesn't let you copy and paste in there either.
Really?
Sade got it. She goes. Sade's got it.
She's typing way better than you and I.
Yeah. No, there's not going to be any contest there. I'm like a gorilla. You'll hear the keys getting punched. Definitely not winning any contest in a speed typing event. So, let's jump into and by the way, like I said, if any of you have questions or anything like that you want to ask, whether it's about cyber insurance or just MSP type stuff, Larry's been in this industry for a very long time. I sadly have been doing it as long as Larry. We both have a lot of experience here, so love to just get questions out there and get them answered if it need be. But Larry, we talked a lot about security. We talked about password management. We talked about MFA. We touched on those things that are necessary because clearly they tie right into cyber insurance. But if you had to pull out your crystal ball right now, do you think, what do you think the next hot subject's going to be? I think some things are cooling off, even though we need them drastically. I think some of the buckets are cooling off a little bit. They're not as sexy, if you will, to the industry. Cloud. We had cloud around for almost 20 years, but until they called it cloud, it wasn't as cool. Right? We had all these different iterations of remote computers. And then when they called it cloud, it was the coolest thing ever. And it was this new thing that, we've known about for 20 years in different iterations. What do you think the next big kind of sexy thing is going to be behind security?
Well, right now there's 3 pretty hard requirements. And I think we've kind of touched on most of them. That's going to be MFA. That's going to be immutable cloud or off-prem backup. And any flavor of MDR, XDR, EDR. So look, guys, it's no secret. The insurance industry don't really move all that fast. So, but what we're seeing, that's becoming more and more popular with many of the carriers is just extending some of these things. And now they're starting to say, well, EDR is great, but we really prefer that you got MDR, XDR, or MFA is great, but we would prefer, and here's where you guys can tell I'm not a cybersecurity expert. I just learned, is it active MFA or something like that I heard about the other day that I was like, I didn't know there was a difference, but then somebody explained it to me and I was like, okay. So, it's really weird because insurance for many, many decades in many, many different verticals and different things like that has driven change. You look above your head, we've all got smoke alarms in our house. If you're in a commercial building, you've probably got a sprinkler system. And that's not just because the builder is trying to be nice, that's now an insurance requirement. Right. Same thing with when when Henry Ford built the Model T, we didn't have seat belts, we didn't have airbags, we didn't have all that stuff. But, as people started getting injured, as people started getting killed, those things then became required by insurers. So
when cars actually move fast enough for us to be hurt. Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? So that's what's going to continue to happen in the cyber insurance space, because we all know, I don't think there's a single person in this room or listening to this at any point in time in the future that's going to, deny this. The cyber, the threat actors out there, that's changing minute by minute by minute, not day by day, literally hour by hour, minute by minute. Right. So as these things continue to change, obviously there's stuff going on out there that I don't know about that's probably going to become standards over the next 3 or 4 years. So that's just the way we kind of foresee things happening. And that's where, Ken, I get to rely on the guys that were the visionary behind this company, because they've been in the insurance and cybersecurity industry for a really long time. I'm still, they've forgotten more than I've even learned so far, but it's fascinating to kind of hear some of the stuff that I've been hearing behind the scenes. So if anybody's going to stay on top of things, it's going to be us for sure. And we'll keep our partners notified of any changes coming down the pike as it happens.
Yeah, and you're right. It changes so fast. It makes you wonder, what some of the MSPs, I'm sure, are jammed up and saying, well, I'm going to wait for this to happen, or I'm going to wait for this to come out. And then the problem with that is it's changing so much that they never get to that point of, what they want to do. And another Matt Lee-ism, something that Matt Lee said that really stuck with me was the security company that you're using now may not be the security company you're using tomorrow. Right. And so I guess the moral of the story is do something. Get started, plug something in. I know it's hard to change vendors, but with security and cybersecurity, you really need to get something in place, and you can't just hold off, because there's never going to be it's never going to be done.
So true. So true.
And, I think we all, as coming from a place where, I was an ex-MSP, because we have so much to do, it's easy to put some things off. And that's one thing that you just can't put off. You have to. And like we talked about earlier, getting your house in order first before you go out and start selling it to other people is a big deal for a number of reasons. I even had a tech one time, Larry, say to one of my customers, oh, you know what? We don't use this, so I'm going to have to go. We're going to do some research on this. And it's like, well, why would you say that to a customer? And then the customer's like, well, why are you installing it here if you don't use this?
And why am I paying you money?
Yeah. So putting it in-house so that your engineers get used to using it, get very, very intimate with it. And then also knowing where its limitations are and if you need to keep running it or make changes, and which also ties into the other side of the business, which is stop selling products and start selling solutions. They don't need to know. They don't need to know what's under the hood. All they need to know is these are your problems, and then here are the solutions. We don't want to talk about the actual product. We're talking about solutions here. And I think that makes it easier to make that switch behind the scenes when you need to.
Absolutely. You're so right. The longer you put it off, the more risk you're assuming.
Especially now. Scares me. Liability is, I think I wake up in the middle of the night screaming liability, and I'm not even in that, in that seat anymore. It's definitely crazy. Pete says, yeah, they definitely have. Pete says insurance companies have learned a lot over the last few years. They finally are gathering data that lets them have better data process and are so much smarter than pre-COVID, et cetera. True.
Pete is a smart man, because he is just you just nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. And, it's funny. That's also, we've all seen these just crazy price increases on cyber policies and stuff like that. And a lot of that is because, you know, whether it was pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, many of these insurers looked out there and went, "Ooh, a new product we can sell and make money on." And even the carriers, many of the carriers didn't understand cyber, so they jumped in here. And then all of a sudden, the claims started pouring in, the losses started to mount, and so yeah, you've seen some carriers kind of walk away from the space, but it's definitely a space that's here to stay. And the carriers are getting much smarter. We're getting more and more data so that they can continue to try to figure out how. I mean, look, there's no secret here. Insurance carriers don't want to pay out. They're a for-profit business, but they are there to help protect businesses. But those businesses share some of the responsibility and make sure that they document things and all of that good stuff so that they've got their house in order if any type of incident occurs, and improve their chances to get a payout.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, I don't know if there's a real stat on this, but I would say, you pay car insurance and you may go through your life and not really ever need it, right? And that's the thing that people freak out about. Well, I didn't need this or I didn't need that, but you pay the insurance because of the one time it could happen. I would be very, I would be willing to say, I bet you're more likely to get hacked than you are to get in a car accident.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. As we
And
say, and I think it was actually,
and it's a death to your, it can be a death blow to your business, right? In most cases, small businesses don't survive that.
totally. Matter of fact, 83% don't survive an attack after the first 6 months. It's hard numbers. And it was Robert Mueller, I think, first had this quote attributed to him, and it was not if you have some type of security incident, it's when. And it's going to happen to everyone. And these SMBs, guys, we hear you. We're talking to MSPs all the time, and MSPs are singing a common theme. We talk to our customers, but they're like, "Yeah, we're not big enough. We're not big enough." But what you've got to teach these guys is that these hackers aren't going after the big companies anymore, because the big companies are pretty damn smart. They've got a pretty good security network in place and all that security posture, all that good stuff. It's the guy sitting on his couch in his living room while his kids are playing Nintendo or whatever, and they're sitting there going, "Oh, I just found a vulnerability. Let me write a script and see how many I can go lock up. And let's make those SMBs pay me $5,000 here, $2,000 there, $10,000 here." And they just watch the money start rolling in. And now it's a syndicate of guys that are doing this stuff. It's not just an individual
It's not even guys
hacker.
now. It's
Yeah,
bots.
it's bots.
They just roll bots out.
And that's all of us have to help educate the SMBs on what the reality is. And, we don't like to sell on FUD, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
Stop it. Everything is scary now. It should be. You should be.
It's facts. Yeah.
Yes.
The facts are scary. That's
right.
All you have to do is put the facts out there. That's scary enough for any smart business owner.
Yeah, it's funny because when you talk about the small guys, and remember, I haven't been an MSP now for 4 or 5 years, right? I went over to the dark side and joined PAX 8 there. And, so 4 or 5 years ago, when we were going out and talking about cybersecurity, I was showing everybody, the small guys that were getting hit, and showing and explaining to them what that did to these businesses and what it did, from a standpoint of, why they were doing it, because it was easy. Sure, they're going to put them out there to the big companies, but it's going to take longer because the bot's going to keep trying things, right, and changing things. But if they can go to an easy target, hit it once, and then also, by the way, you actually do something silly and show that there's breath on the mirror, and you either give it to them and then you pay the ransom or make some kind of connection with them, whatever it may be, they're going to keep coming back for that. And we had a bunch. I'll tell you what. I mean, I don't know if you can still get them, but Datto had some great stories of smaller companies that got hacked and what the costs were. And I think that's something that you should be putting in front of your customers. Show them companies just like them that are being hit the same way that they would, right? If you're talking to chiropractors, show them chiropractors that have been hacked. There's thousands of them. Even if you're talking to a landscaper, there's thousands of them. You'll be able to go out and find hacks on just about any specific vertical and show them these are real stats. This is what's happening in the world.
I'm so glad you just brought this up because I just typed something in there. Sade, if you could copy that to everyone, that would be awesome. But we actually, our CEO, Andy Anderson, who he was a Wall Street insurance analyst. He's been in cybersecurity. The guy is brilliant, but he has his own, we call it the Cyber Crime Lab podcast. And this is a great thing to put in front of some of your customers because this is not talking tech. This is talking the human aspect of what has happened to small business owners when they suffered some type of incident. And let me tell you, some of these podcasts, I mean, there was one done by an MSP. I mean, you'll see it out here, Jay Tipton, a friend of mine, but he got hit in the Kaseya attack.
Yes,
and man, to hear his podcast, it's powerful. It really, really is. So not only do we talk to people that have suffered some type of incident and ask the hard questions, what did you think? How did it affect you? How did it affect your business, your employees, all of that good stuff? We also bring experts in to talk about, from the various law firms, different things like that on just things that they have seen and what they recommend for small businesses to do to protect themselves. So like I said earlier, guys, and I know I've said it a couple of times, we're here to be a resource. We're here to help you guys. We want to see you succeed. We want you guys to be the one-stop shop for everything cybersecurity. So now you can use us, hopefully, as that resource to, at least on the cyber insurance side.
Yeah, I love this subject because it's all about education, right? It's all about putting it in front of the people.
Totally.
Listen, not everybody's going to listen, but now, especially now with liability, that's actually a good indicator of who you shouldn't be doing business with. If they're fighting you on this stuff and they still don't want to do it after seeing all of the facts, that's a goodbye. That's a time to not waste your time with those people anymore. Good luck. I really hope you figure it out, but I can't work with you because it's a liability for me.
You're so right. And it's easier said than done. Look, we realize that, but there comes a time when it's really time to divorce that customer because like Ken said, they're dragging you down. They're a huge liability on you if they're not going to do some of the things that you're recommending.
It's a lot harder to do when you have to reverse the process, I will admit. When I first started as an MSP, it was like anybody who wanted to pay me to fix stuff, we took on. Yeah. And as we got bigger, I still had that mentality and thought that, hey, I'm a great guy. My techs love me. And it turned out that they were very unhappy with me because I was taking anything that would come down the pike and they were abusing my people. They were, the customers were abusing my people. And until I smartened up and somebody smarter than me kicked me in the pants from our community, I thought that way. I thought it was the right way. And then I started to get involved with traction and I started to figure it out and get everybody rowing in the same direction. And I learned it started to get fun, Larry, a little bit of fun when you can go to a client and say, you know what, and pull the old George Costanza. It's not you, it's me.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what I would do, Larry. Somehow I figured out along the way too, to be nice. And it worked pretty well in my favor where I would go to people and say, look, I think our companies are just growing in it. I think we can't meet your needs. Your needs have become much larger than we can handle. Not saying, hey, we're too good for you, right? And they would actually, in some cases, say, whoa, I love you guys. What do I need to do?
What do I need to do? Exactly.
And then you'd get them, but you'd also be weeding out the ones that didn't belong there. And there's a process to this. There's a book called The Pumpkin Plan. I highly recommend it. It walks you through how to do it. What we used to do is for every 2 new clients we brought in, we would look at one of those lower customers that were on the brink, that weren't going to move to managed services, that gave us a hard time. We rated we learned over time how to rate our customers, and we did them by that rating system. So every 2 we brought on, 1 we would go to, I'd tell them, hey, we got to raise your prices 40%. And they would either leave, or some of them would stay and actually buy into it magically enough.
Absolutely. And that, this is what I love about the channel. It's truly such a unique, I guess, ecosystem, even though that's kind of an overused term. But, you got people like Ken sitting out here trying to offer advice on how to help you guys. And, I talk to MSPs all the time. They're trying to help other MSPs. Vendors are trying to help MSPs. MSPs are trying to help vendors. It's people helping people so that we all can serve those clients better. Obviously, we're all out here to make some money while we do it. But at the end of the day, most of the people I come across on the channel, their number one thing is, I want to make sure that I'm helping my customers. I'm protecting my customers. I'm protecting my interest as well. So.
Yeah, and that's why we call it community, right? And a lot
of people,
and I think a lot of places community is abused. I think this community is so strong, and yeah, we definitely have our fair share of bad apples in the community. We know that, and we try to work through that. But for the most part, especially during COVID, I didn't see any community pull together like this one did.
Bingo.
So there's hope when you see stuff like that, when you see people trying to help other people, and the collaboration that happened, and MSPs helping other MSPs and working together on things they never thought they would work together on. I think that's where the hope is, and the hope lies. So it doesn't matter where you are in your journey, if you need help, it's out there. Go to people like Larry, like Pete, like people on this call, reach out to people, ask for help. Guaranteed you're going to find some people that are willing to help. And that's what I love about this community. It's what I love about doing this. It's why I love Larry. Larry's such a great guy and such a great resource.
Thank you, man.
He's willing to help anybody. So make sure you reach out. His information is here in the box. If you need it again, reach back out to the team at MSPI, and they'll help you out with that. Don't forget about the parties. We got the big party coming up at IT Nation. That's going to be fantastic. You heard the music from All American Rejects. There's also going to be some crazy other things going on that I can't talk about. They won't tell me. I got a big mouth. They won't tell me all of it. So there's some cool stuff going on. If you want to get out and see something really cool, you don't even have to be at the event. Go to it. And then also, if you're in any of those cities that we're going to be popping out to next week, we're going to be in Vegas. We're going to be in Irvine, San Diego. We're going to be in Phoenix. Make sure you get out and see us. It's a great time. And I'll tell you what, a lot of collaboration happens. So I've already gone a minute over. Larry, you know what? This is one of the fun ones for me to fill in. And so I'm glad George is in London doing his thing. I'm glad I got to fill in.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks very much. It's been another great show. Sade, take it away.